some of the great mysteries of this century are part of the Hollywood Chronicles. Many of the victims rest right here in the famous Hollywood Memorial Cemetery, and it's possible their murderers lie nearby. But the mysteries of their death live on to taunt us with their red herrings and blind alleys. The victims were all products of Hollywood. Their sudden deaths remain notorious Hollywood mysteries, and ironically, all of them may have contributed to the mystery surrounding their deaths. Each of these victims had a secret that in some cases is buried with them, a secret that may have killed them. The first really great Hollywood mystery is still a subject of controversy almost 70 years later. On the morning of February 22, 1922, police responded to a call on Alvarado Street in the Westlake Park section of Los Angeles. It was the home of director William Desmond Taylor, one of Hollywood's most famous directors, who, they discovered, had been recently murdered.
2 police officers were dispatched to the bungalow court where William Desmond Taylor lived. Almost instantly, they realized that something unusual had gone on. There must have been 10 or 15 different people, either in the living room, outside, upstairs, in the bathroom, in the kitchen. A doctor arrived, very mysterious character, came, immediately identified himself as a man sent from the coroner's office, took one look at William Desmond Taylor, made a 30-second investigation, and immediately declared that William Desmond Taylor died of a stomach hemorrhage, at which point virtually everybody in the room turned around in complete accordance, said, "Oh, of course, what else could he have died of? Natural causes, absolutely." Well, no sooner had police detectives ushered everybody out of the bungalow, and of course these people were quick to leave, jumped at the chance to leave, then William Desmond Taylor's body was turned over and there was a bullet hole found in his back. All of a sudden, all of the events that had occurred earlier took on a far different significance.
The police investigation soon revealed that Taylor was anything but what he seemed to be. The dignified director had, in fact, come to Hollywood and created for himself a new identity after deserting a wife and child in New York. The police were further baffled by the array of people that were becoming suspects in his death. Suspect number 1 was Mary Miles Minter, Paramount's 17-year-old answer to Mary Pickford. She had made this rare sound recording shortly before the murder.
My dear friend, I have often wanted to talk to you. I know that I owe you a debt of gratitude, more than I can ever repay, but all I can say is that I will try harder and harder than ever to please and entertain you. I thank you again and again. Mary Miles Minter.
The fatherless girl had a real crush on Taylor and had reportedly written him a series of love letters, begging Taylor to help her escape her mother's grip. Taylor, it seemed, was not in the least interested. Mary's mother, Charlotte Shelby, became the next logical suspect. She had a terrible reputation at Paramount for being an overbearing mother, threatening anyone who came close to her daughter, even, some said, Taylor. Then there was Mabel Normand. One of Hollywood's most endearing comedians, Normand had been engaged to Taylor at one point, and it's reported that she had visited him the night he was killed. In fact, the police believed that she was the last person to see him alive. The final suspect was Edward Sands, Taylor's chauffeur, who disappeared after stealing Taylor's jewelry and car. It's believed that Sands was actually Taylor's brother and was blackmailing the director about his secret life. The police investigation lasted over 6 months, but in the end, they reached a dead end. While the case may have been closed, its effects on those close to Taylor never ended. Sands was never discovered, and some believe may have committed suicide later that year. Mary Miles Minter's fans were shocked at her reported relationship with Taylor, a man old enough to be her father. Paramount immediately dropped her. Mabel Norman's career slowly fell apart after the murder. She would be only 35 years old when she died of a combination of drug abuse and tuberculosis. One of Taylor's friends was director King Vidor. The murder and its mysteries haunted Vidor for over 40 years until he decided to do his own investigation and solve, once and for all, who killed Taylor.
I don't think there's any question who killed William Desmond Taylor, nor was there any question in the mind of King Vidor, who ran the investigation. Charlotte Shelby killed William Desmond Taylor. She was known to have had this wicked temper. She was known to be horribly protective of her daughter. She came to suspect that Mary Miles Minter was having an affair with William Desmond Taylor.
According to Vidor's theory, the events leading up to the murder began when Mary Miles Minter fled from her mother and took refuge at Taylor's. Charlotte Shelby followed her and, in a rage, shot Taylor. Mary Miles Minter was an expensive star, but with poor box office appeal, so when Paramount studio executives found out what happened, they immediately went to work. Arriving before the police, they planted panties in Taylor's bedroom and leaked to the press that they had the initials MMM on them. Not only did this story ruin Minter's career, but it also helped cover up another scandalous side to the story.
No question what the studios were trying to hide. William Desmond Taylor was a homosexual. May not be front page news this year, but in 1922, it would have lost William Desmond Taylor his career.
Furthermore, Vidor discovered why the case was never solved. Charlotte Shelby used her daughter's money to pay off 3 generations of Los Angeles district attorneys. When the money ran out in 1957, Vidor believed that she faked her own death, living with Minter in hiding for the rest of her life. Minter's life was all but destroyed. In a 1967 interview with Vidor, though Mary didn't reveal what happened that fateful night, she did confide, "My mother killed everything I ever loved." Nearly a decade later, another studio and its hottest star were involved in another great mystery. The studio was MGM. The star was sex goddess Jean Harlow.
I would like to use this occasion to publicly thank Mr. Hughes for the...
Harlow's meteoric rise began with the success of Howard Hughes' aerial classic Hell's Angels. MGM's Irving Thalberg saw her potential and signed Harlow to a multi-year contract, putting her under the control of producer Paul Byrne.
Paul Byrne was a top producer at the studio. He had produced Grand Hotel in 1930, which won the Academy Award. He produced Greta Garbo's first talkie, Anna Christie, by Eugene O'Neill. He had produced The Divorcee with Norma Shearer. He was doing some of their finest films.
To present the most glamorous star of motion pictures, Miss Jean Harlow. She will be interviewed by your...
The well-liked and capable executive not only masterminded her career, but eventually married Jean as well. While her marriage may have seemed successful on the surface, problems were quickly brewing. In September of 1932, Harlow came home one evening to an upset Byrne. After a loud argument, Harlow fled their house and spent the night with her mother. This would be the last time Harlow would ever see Byrne alive.
I went up to Benedict Canyon with him when he was building the little house where he was found dead in 1932. I was also one of the first up there that day, along with Thalberg. There are many mysteries involved with what happened to Paul Byrne.
When Marx, Thalberg, and the other MGM executives arrived, they found Byrne on the floor and a suicide note nearby. It didn't take long for them to conclude why he killed himself.
I think that the suspicion that Jean Harlow was involved, after all, she was not home that night, and the worry that she may have caused his death, They felt that the stigma of that, which could have destroyed her in those days, could be taken off if the public believed that he was impotent and that he had committed suicide out of humiliation. And that's the propagation that went out.
What in fact they were covering up wasn't just Harlow's possible involvement in his death, but the damaging truth that Paul Byrne was a bigamist. Several years before meeting Harlow, Byrne was living with a woman named Dorothy Millette in the Algonquin Hotel in New York. Millette became ill and suffered from amnesia, so Byrne had her hospitalized and continued to pay her expenses. Millette's existence remained hidden from everyone after Byrne's move to Hollywood and his eventual marriage to Harlow. But Millette recovered and came west looking for Byrne, finding him the day of his fight with Harlow. Whether he killed himself to spare Harlow a scandal, or Millette killed him in a jealous rage, after Byrne's death, Millette jumped off a boat and killed herself. Harlow would eventually marry cameraman Hal Rawson, but she would be haunted by the mystery surrounding Byrne's death until her own untimely death 5 years later in 1937. 3 years later, another blonde starlet, Thelma Todd, became the subject of a baffling mystery. Comfortable both in comedic and romantic roles, Todd's star was rising fast during the 1930s.
All reliable, just like this. Oh, gee, baby, I hurt you?
Oh, no, do it again. I love it.
She's at the cops. Hello, man.
On screen and off, Todd was both beautiful and tough. She was someone who liked to have a good time, and everyone knew it. The wild crowd she ran with included mobster Lucky Luciano, one of the most dangerous gangsters in the city. The blonde starlet owned a chic seaside cafe that was very popular with the movie crowd. Her apartment was located directly above the restaurant in the home of director Roland West, her partner in the cafe and her lover. On Saturday, December 14, 1935, after a fight with West, Todd attended a party given in her honor at the Trocadero.
Thelma had left her lover, a director named Roland West, at the cafe. He was a very quiet man in the middle of a divorce. He didn't like parties, he didn't like drinking, and Thelma liked both of those things a lot. He demanded that she be home at 2. She placed a phone call around 2:30 and came back to the party noticeably depressed.
Thelma left the party at about 3:30 a.m. and was dropped off at her house by her chauffeur. Someone met her at the house, and during the next 18 hours, Todd was seen all over town in the company of a dark, handsome stranger.
Thelma was found Monday morning in her garage in the front seat of her chocolate brown Phaeton convertible, dead from carbon monoxide poisoning. Police said that she died in the wee hours of Sunday morning shortly after she arrived back at the cafe. However, 9 people testified that they saw Thelma at various spots all over the city.
Thelma's friends couldn't accept the coroner's finding of suicide. They demanded an investigation and constantly told the press that Thelma was not depressed and would not have killed herself.
One by one, all of these people said that they must have been mistaken. A waiter at the Trocadero received a kidnap threat. Thelma's personal maid, Mae Whitehead, said that she was told to shut up if she knew what was good for her. And everyone rescinded their vote, and basically it pointed a finger at the mob. Lucky Luciano, it was well known, wanted to buy into her cafe and install illegal gambling facilities on the 3rd floor and take advantage of her wealthy Hollywood friends that went there. And Thelma said no. And you didn't say no to the mob.
The official finding was suicide,
But the evidence suggests that Thelma Todd was the victim of a crime yet to be solved.
In most of these mysteries, the police initially suspected either suicide or a lover's quarrel. But one death has been so baffling and so monstrous that no one has ever guessed at the perpetrator. Ironically, this murder, probably the most infamous Hollywood mystery, didn't even involve a celebrity.
We go back to the year 1947. Hollywood had returned to normal after several years of war duty, and thousands of would-be stars continued to come here looking for a chance to break into the big time. If you were lucky, you might have gotten a job as an extra. But for most, hanging out around town would have to do. One of these would-bes was Elizabeth Short.
She was called Black Dahlia because the black flower in her hair. She was, I understand, a call girl, model, if you want to call it that. She's like a lot of girls were models that time, or call girls. I don't know exactly what she played, but she was known as a gal who used to hang around bars.
Jasker, then a photojournalist for the Hollywood Citizen News, was called one morning by the newsroom and told to rush down to an open field in the southeastern part of Hollywood.
Get over there. We've got a murder for you. The way she was dismembered, I had never seen anything like it. I've seen and photographed other victims, but not quite as bad. But she was a real mess. I don't know all the details of it. It's still unsolved, but I did talk to a lot of the police detectives who worked on the case. And they said, Joe, for some reason, we were taken off the case. They got a lot of terrific information that they've been working on, very good leads, but they were suddenly taken off the case for like they were not supposed to solve it.
To this day, the murder of the Black Dahlia remains one of the most baffling cases in the files of the Los Angeles Police Department.
Yeah?
Toward the end of the 1950s, another mysterious death not only shocked Hollywood, but the entire country. America had become hooked on television and on a series based on a comic book hero, Superman. And to millions of kids, actor George Reeves was the Man of Steel.
But for this...
That's the chance I gotta take. No, I don't believe it.
You will, Blinky. You will.
You're just wasting your ammunition, Blinky. Sit down.
On screen, Reeves could do almost anything. But on the night of June 16, 1959, Reeves would not be so indestructible. Millions of his fans couldn't believe that he would commit suicide. A careful look at the events surrounding his death doesn't remove these doubts either.
The coroner's report and the newspaper accounts at the time indicate that Leonore Lemon, his fiancée, had welcomed some guests into George Reeves' Benedict Canyon house at a very late hour, around midnight. George was unhappy at the people coming in. He was unhappy at guests so late. And this was just 2 days before he and this woman, Ms. Lemon, were due to get married. In a huff, he went upstairs. She explained this behavior as typical of George at the time, and he's probably going to be taking a gun out of his dresser. He's going to put it to his head, and he's going to kill himself because of it. A moment later, there was a gunshot, and it's assumed that's exactly what happened.
The coroner declared that it was suicide, and the newspaper speculated that Reeves must have been despondent because his show was canceled. But contrary to these reports, Reeves was healthy and in good spirits. The judo champion wasn't a quitter, and he had been offered the opportunity of directing TV shows later in the year. He was about to get married and was expecting to win a large court settlement for an automobile accident lawsuit. The most ardent critic of the suicide verdict was Reeves' mother, who hired a detective agency to investigate. Their determination, George Reeves was, in fact, murdered.
Bye now.
Historians can track the events in the lives of William Desmond Taylor, Paul Byrne, Thelma Todd, Elizabeth Short, and George Reeves. We can play Sam Spade and try to solve the mysteries of their deaths. We can even tell some of their secrets. But we'll never be sure of the solution because the biggest secret of their lives has been buried with them. We can, however, be sure of one thing. These unsolved mysteries will remain a part of the legends that enrich the Hollywood Chronicles. I'm Jackie Cooper.